Hello everybody, welcome to JD's Journeys. My name is JD and today I'm going to talk about diversity and Diversathon. First off, I didn't participate in Diversathon and I don't think I will. For one thing, I just read too slowly to do this thing and I'm not even prepared. However, I am doing something that is somewhat related, and that is the Read the World project, where I'm going to be reading a book from every country in the world. At the moment, I'm in the research stages and I've been doing videos about countries. And I'm starting off with the A countries, of course. It's going to be alphabetical. So I've already done the first two countries. You can see Afghanistan right here and Albania right here. So you can click on either one or both if you want and go watch those videos. As for diversity, recently, a fantasy author by the name of V.E. Schwab was attacked on Twitter for not having a very diverse cast of characters in her books. Now, she writes fantasy, so I'm not sure if this even applies. I mean, in a fantasy world, it's not Earth, is it? Now, I haven't read any of her books, so I don't know if it takes place on our Earth or if it takes place on a fantasy world. In many fantasy worlds, there is a fairly diverse cast of characters. You got human, dwarf, elf, or any other kind of species. In Malazan, Book of the Fallen, it's actually quite interesting. There's a lot of different kinds of people that aren't human. Even so, the humans are quite mixed too. There are those that look like they're white, some that look like they're black, and so on. My question is, should a fantasy author be obligated to include races from Earth? Like, do we need to have white, black, Asian, Native, Australian Aboriginal, Pacific Islander? I don't know. Because it's not Earth, is it? I don't think authors should be obligated to have diverse cast of characters at all. If it fits, of course, do it. If it doesn't fit, then why? I lived in Japan for 11 years. If I was to write a book about Japan, most likely 100% or almost 100% of the characters would be Japanese. That is not diverse at all, at least racially. And in Japan, it's not very common to express homosexuality. It is becoming a bit more accepted these days, but you only really hear about it from a few different celebrities on TV. But other than that, it's usually kept in the closet. People don't talk about it. So a novel set in Japan is most likely going to be Japanese straight people. It's not going to be very diverse, and that's fine. But if it's a book that takes place in New York City in the 21st century, I would expect diversity. Really. And then in San Francisco, it has a very big LGBTQ community. So I would definitely expect there to be some gay or transsexual, transgendered people. Like, that is kind of what you expect about San Francisco, but I don't think it's absolutely required. So there's a time and place for everything, they say. And if you're looking at historical times, let's say go back 500 years in, I don't know, Scandinavia, you're going to have white people, most likely. I'm not so sure about any gay and lesbian people back then. I'm sure there were people, but they were probably hiding. There may have been a lot of persecution. Of course, that happened a lot in history. So they would probably keep it hidden. A story that takes place in the Canadian Arctic 1,000 years ago probably wouldn't be very diverse either. It would be kind of out of place to include someone from Africa there. Or I don't know how they handled homosexuality or anything like that. So it's possible that they did, but I would not expect the author to include it. I mean, it really depends on the story, right? I'm all for diversity. I love diversity. I live in a very diverse neighborhood. About half the people around here are Indian, and there are some Asian as well. In fact, my wife is Japanese. My daughter is mixed. My own family is quite diverse itself. And that's great. Actually, I quite like it. But my hometown is a small town in northern Alberta, which is almost 100% white. When I grew up, there was, I think, one Chinese family and one family that lived across the street from us where the mother was black, the father was white, and the kids are mixed. And to be honest, that was the first time I ever met a black person. So it really depends on the place and the time. If it's fantasy, it really depends on how the author develops the world. You may just have a world where there is only one kind of person. That's quite possible. Maybe there's only one kind of environment. So before people start attacking people because their characters are not diverse enough for them, they have to think about a few things, like what I just talked about. Is diversity appropriate in the story? Is it appropriate in the location and the time? If not, then don't demand it. Then it'll come across as being very artificial, very forced. And really, I don't want to read something that sounds like that. My own writing has a lot of diversity, and it's appropriate for the story, as well as the setting, the location, and the time, as it takes place in the future on another planet, and you would think that major interplanetary travel would require some kind of international effort. So, it is diverse. So in conclusion, I love diversity, but it should not be forced. It should not be required 100% of the time. It depends on the story's setting and time. That's it. What do you think? Let me know in the comments section below. And if you like this video, please click on thumbs up and please subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.